Welcome back, scholars, to our Digital Academy. I am Professor Spark. Whether we are turning the pages of a timeless novel, our mission remains the same. Will today's sweep us into the concert hall? Let's find out together.
Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into a story you've definitely heard of, but maybe haven't actually explored. We're talking about Herman Melville's 1851 novel, Moby-Dick. Now, on the surface, sure, it's a book about a whaling voyage, but underneath, it is a profound, incredibly intense psychological thriller and a massive meditation on the whole human condition.
We absolutely have to start right at the beginning, with what is arguably one of the most famous opening lines in world literature. Call me Ishmael. With just those 3 words, we meet our narrator. He's this reflective, curious young sailor who's just heading out to sea looking for a bit of meaning and adventure. Really, he acts as our proxy. He's a perfectly normal guy stepping into a highly abnormal world, and he's going to be our eyes and ears for this whole wild journey.
But seriously, let's address the elephant, or, well, the whale in the room. How does a 600-page book filled with, let's be honest, incredibly dense 19th century whaling techniques become considered a literary masterpiece? Crazy enough, when it first came out, it was actually a total commercial failure. It only became a titan of world literature way later, once readers finally started to grasp the immense, brilliant layers of philosophy, religion, and psychology that Melville wove right into the adventure.
Section 1. Setting Sail on the Pequod.
To really understand these layers, we need to meet the crew of the Pequod, which is basically this floating microcosm of humanity. Right off the bat, Ishmael forms a profound bond with a guy named Queequeg, who is this heavily tattooed Polynesian harpooner. And despite their massive differences, we're talking appearance, culture, nationality, religion, the whole shebang, they develop this incredibly deep mutual respect. Melville is actually quietly challenging the prejudices of his own time here, showing us that true compassion often comes from the absolute most unexpected places.
And you can see this brilliant dynamic play out with the ship's leadership, too. Just think about how the 3 mates react to the sheer danger of their voyage. You've got Starbuck, the thoughtful first mate, who stands for reason and morality. He questions the mission, but, ultimately yields. Then you have Stubb, the cheerful second mate, who just literally laughs in the face of danger. And finally, Flask, the super practical third mate, who is just hyper-focused on the daily grind. It's a perfect cross-section of how everyday people process truly extraordinary, terrifying situations.
Section 2. Anatomy of an Obsession.
Okay, it's time we talk about the man commanding this entire crew, the brilliant, yet utterly mysterious Captain Ahab. At first, he kind of stays hidden from his crew, but eventually, he comes out and drops a bombshell about the Pequod's true mission. And this is the crucial point. Ahab isn't out there hunting for profit. He is hunting for pure revenge against the legendary white whale that bit off his leg. Instead of just seeing this as a natural, terrible accident, Ahab has convinced himself that the whale is this malicious, evil force that personally wronged him. He's completely abandoned all rational judgment, putting his personal vendetta above the lives of every single person on that ship.
So let's dive into a classic concept here, because it's absolutely central to the novel. Ahab isn't just some cranky, bitter sea captain, he is a full-blown tragic hero, straight out of ancient Greek mythology or Shakespeare. He's got the intelligence, the courage, the intense charisma. Yet, that greatness, it's the exact source of his downfall. He suffers from what the Greeks called hamartia, a fatal flaw. For Ahab, that flaw is his absolute stubborn refusal to accept limits. He genuinely believes that sheer human willpower can and should conquer literally every obstacle in its path.
Section 3. The Symbol of the Whale.
Now, if Ahab is our tragic hero, we've got to understand the object of his intense hatred. And here is the wild thing. Unlike your traditional bad guys, Moby-Dick is not actually evil. The whale is just behaving like a wild animal. Melville makes it crystal clear that the true conflict is happening entirely inside Ahab's own mind. Sure, nature possesses this terrifying, enormous power, but it has no human morality. Storms, oceans, winds, whales, they don't hate people, they just exist. It's us human beings who desperately try to create meaning where, objectively, there isn't any.
This symbolism here is just wildly diverse. One of the main reasons this novel inspires endless debate is that the white whale means something completely different to everyone who looks at it. To some, it's nature, or God, or fate. To others, it's death, the unknown, evil, truth, or even the universe itself. Every character is just projecting their own personal beliefs and fears onto this massive animal. Moby-Dick essentially functions as a blank canvas, a giant, terrifying mirror reflecting human psychology right back at us.
Section 4. 2 paths, Ahab and Ishmael. This whole dynamic brings us to the core philosophical tension of the explainer today. If you put our two main characters side by side, it's an incredible contrast in how people confront existence. You have Ahab, totally certain, rigid, proud, consumed by his revenge, and absolutely refusing to adapt. And then you have Ishmael, curious, humble, open-minded, and perfectly willing to accept uncertainty. The ultimate takeaway is pretty stark, right? Ishmael survives because he adapts to the world. Ahab dies because he refuses to.
Section 5. The Tragedy of Blind Leadership.
But Ahab's personal obsession doesn't happen in a vacuum, right? As captain, his madness actively infects the entire ship. The Pequod is honestly a masterclass study in leadership. Ahab commands this absolute unwavering loyalty just through his passion and the sheer force of his personality. But charismatic leadership without ethical restraint, that is incredibly dangerous. Remember Starbuck, the thoughtful first mate? He totally recognizes Ahab's madness, but he just lacks the courage to stand up and challenge him decisively. So Melville is exploring not just the obvious dangers of bad leaders, but the equally deadly threat of a silent majority who just follow orders straight into ruin.
Section 6. The Final Battle.
So, after literally years of searching the globe, across the Atlantic, around Africa, deep into the Pacific, this toxic leadership finally collides with its target. When they find Moby-Dick, the climax explodes over 3 absolutely terrifying days. Day 1 is this ferocious first attack. Day 2 is a relentless, exhausting pursuit. And Day 3, total, undeniable devastation. Moby-Dick completely destroys the ship and kills nearly the entire crew. And in this moment of just bitter irony, Ahab gets entangled in his own harpoon rope and is dragged to his death by the exact creature he was trying to conquer.
The Pequod sinks, and the hatred ultimately destroys the very person who nurtured it. Only Ishmael survives the wreckage. And how does he survive? By floating on, of all things, his best friend Queequeg's coffin, until another ship finally rescues him. It's wild, but his survival symbolizes the enduring power of sharing our stories. Through his thoughtful narration, Ishmael actually preserves the lives and memories of his crewmates, transforming this senseless tragedy into something profound and wise.
Section 7. Enduring Mysteries. Melville doesn't tie everything up neatly with a bow at the end. Actually, scratch that. He purposely leaves things open. He uses this epic voyage to force us to wrestle with massive, unanswerable questions. First up, does God actually govern the universe? Who or what is really in control of these terrifying, awe-inspiring forces of nature that can just wipe us out in a split second?
Second, is life ruled by fate or free will? We really have to wonder if Ahab ever truly had a choice to turn that ship around, or if his doom was just written in the stars the very minute he set sail.
Third, why do innocent people suffer? This is a tough one. We have to painfully reckon with the completely senseless destruction of the Pequod's crew. These were good, hardworking people who died simply because they were following a madman's orders.
And finally, can humanity ever really know ultimate truth? Throughout the book, Melville gives us chapters upon chapters of incredibly detailed scientific observation of whales, but at the end of the day, Moby-Dick remains a total mystery. It suggests that while knowledge is super valuable, it's also ultimately incomplete. So, are we meant to endlessly try to conquer and master the unknown exactly like Ahab? Or does true wisdom lie in humbly accepting what we simply cannot control, like Ishmael? Well, I'll leave you to chart your own philosophical waters on that one.